What is going on, my fellow OMI homies? It's Foster, and I'm back at it again with another VEVE and Ecomi video. Guys, if you're new to the channel, welcome aboard. If you're a returning viewer, welcome back. And if you are watching this video right now and you are not subscribed, please feel free to do so down below. It is the only financial advice that I will ever give you on my channel. Guys, today I wanted to share something that recently came up on social media. Shout out to Comics and Crypto Podcast for sharing this. This was a news interview done out of New Zealand. For those of you guys that do not know, Ecomi is a company based out of New Zealand, and the interview was specifically referencing NFTs, and a large portion of the media segment was actually dedicated to the VEVE platform. So I want to play this quick clip here for you that'll set up the basis for today's video, and then we'll get right into it.
New Zealanders are in on the action too. Kiwi company VEVE launched its NFT app at the start of 2021.
We've sold 2.8 million editions since January, grown to like 1.3 million active users.
It allows users to trade, buy and sell, and we'll be generating over $1 billion revenue in the calendar year coming.
I don't know if you guys caught that or not. 1 billion in revenue that VEVE is going to generate in the 2022 calendar year. That is absolutely incredible. So this just recently came out. Obviously, I've listened to it. I got really excited about it. But once again, and I've preached this in my videos before, a number is just a number. So we got to run the numbers so that we truly understand them. So I want to reference this video that I put out on December 28th. So I put out a video titled Burning 75% of OMI Reserves with VEVE in 2022. It was a great video. I enjoyed making it. And a lot of people were supportive, but there were some people in the comments who felt as though I did not model my projections accordingly. And essentially the biggest negative that people felt came from my video is that I didn't account for OMI price fluctuation. People said, you ran the numbers based on the fact that OMI is 0.6 of a penny. OMI is not always going to stay at 0.6 of a penny. Therefore, your model has been invalidated. And I did respond to most of the people that made that comment because I did want to provide my clarification. For those of you that don't understand why I didn't take OMI token price modeling into effect is we have absolutely no idea where the price of the token is going to go over the next year. There are just too many catalysts to accurately project it. But I also knew that the revenue projections of VEVE over 2022 were going to blow the 2021 numbers out of the water. For those guys that do not know, the 2021 revenue projections were right around $100 million as they wrapped up the year. So Dan and David are now projecting $1 billion in 2022, which is a 10x. Remember, this is also the same people that projected that they would have 60,000 people using this app at the end of 2021 and now have 1.3 million active monthly users. I consider this 1 billion number very conservative, but at the same time, I want to take their numbers because it's what they're projecting, and we're going to use that for the projections that I've come up with today. I think it's also worth noting that I made a video on October 19th that you can see here in the background of my video that I made on December 28th, a little bit of an inception moment. And when I made that video, I entitled it OMI Burning Sooner Than Expected. In that video, I actually referenced $1 billion in revenue, which you can see here, and I actually put the price at 1 penny and not at 0.6 of a penny. I also put the burn rate at 20%, which was meant to accommodate burns of 100%, which are things like OMI to land and OMI to non-specific IP in the VEVEverse, and to accommodate actual drops that take place on the app. So I actually touched this on October 19th, and I did estimate some of these numbers, but I know not all of you may have been watching my channel back in October, and I don't think it hurts to refresh some of the information on this. So with that being said, this is the spreadsheet that I made on December 28th. And as you can see here, I had left it at 1,000 drops a year, which if you were watching my video at the time, it might be helpful context. I said this, the OMI price. So just as an experiment, we can have some fun with this. Let's say, and we're probably getting a little crazy here, but let's say VEVE had 3 drops every single day for a year. We could see at these current prices, 185 billion OMI burnt in the primary market and 57 billion burnt in the secondary market. So I said that back on December 28th. I said 1,000 drops a year. Let's get a little crazy. What I want to point out in this is not the OMI burn. That calculation was done automatically based on the math that I did at the time on December 28th. If you are curious, I will of course link that video down in the description below. I highly recommend watching it. What I want to emphasize here is the VEVE revenue estimation. I estimated VEVE's revenue on 1,000 drops a year to be $1.1 billion. When I made this video on December 28th, I had indicated that VEVE is aiming to have at least a dozen drops a week. And I also mentioned the fact that the addition size for the drops would likely increase as the user base increases. And I also mentioned that the price for certain drops may also increase. And I did get some comments in the comment section saying there's absolutely no way that VEVE is going to do anywhere close to that amount of drops based on what people have seen this year. And that's fine. That's someone's opinion, and that's totally fine. So this is 1.1 billion. If we lower the number to 900 drops in a year, we can see that the number is almost exactly 1 billion in revenue. Now remember that this revenue calculation is not based on the price of OMI. This revenue calculation is based on the average addition size of a drop, the average price of a drop, and the average net proceeds that VEVE makes on a drop. That is how I came to that calculation. It has nothing to do with the price of OMI. It just has to do with how much money are they making per drop, and if we were to extrapolate that over 1 year, how many drops would they need to have in order to make $1 billion? And we can see here that the number's about 900, which, if you do the math, is about 2.6 drops per day. So just remember that when I say that they're going to do multiple drops every single day, there's a reason behind it, because they've said it before, and I've been in the project long enough to know that even though some things don't happen necessarily on time, if VEVE says that they're going to do something, they are going to do it, and it will always far exceed your expectations. So coming into 2022, expect that we will start to see multiple drops per day and up to a dozen drops per week based on the amount of revenue that they will need to generate. So what would 900 drops a year at the current price of the OMI token account for in OMI burn? Well, for the primary market, and this was once again referenced in my December 28th video, 100% of the sales in the primary market burn 100% of the OMI from the reserve wallet. That would mean that if we had $1 billion in revenue at the current prices, we would burn 167 billion OMI from the reserve wallet. On top of that, based on the numbers that I ran versus primary versus secondary market spend, I estimated that there's approximately a 5x spend in the secondary market compared to primary market, meaning that there would be about a $5.2 billion spend in the secondary market over 900 drops. And I do actually anticipate this number being substantially larger. And the reason for that is that even if the drop sizes don't increase, the amount of people on the app that are going to want to buy these collectibles will become more competitive. And as the app becomes more competitive for these drops, the prices of those collectibles in the secondary market will increase even further. Therefore, it will burn more OMI. And we see here that this would burn about 52 billion OMI. And that is, of course, because the secondary sales burn is quite a bit smaller than the primary market. It's about 6%. If you're wondering where I got all these numbers, I'm not going to go over all of it in today's video. Like I said, I really do recommend watching that video from December 28th. I talk about my methodology as to how I came to these numbers. And I do think it's important context to give you guys. But understand that when I'm giving you these numbers, it's based on actual math and running the numbers. It's not just, hey, I think that this sounds cool. So that is what we're looking at possibly for 2022, which I mean, how you could not think that that's just absolutely absurd is beyond me. Like 1 billion in revenue. And once again, I think that that's conservative. I don't think that that accounts for VeVeverse non-specific IP buying in the VeVeverse, because I don't think that they can model effectively how many people are actually going to want to buy items in the VeVeverse. I also don't think it accounts for necessarily all of the land sales. And even if it does, it would be at best primary land sales, because they can't account for what people are willing to pay for land in the secondary market, all of which will of course burn OMI. So it's very interesting. Pulling up the spreadsheet that I referenced from my video on December 28th that I made on October 19th, we can see here this was the 1 billion in revenue that I estimated and how much OMI that it would burn. None of this has really changed. The price actually hasn't fluctuated too much since October. So this is kind of all still the same. And of course it would burn 100% because all of the revenue that's being generated is being done in the primary market. So we would burn 166 billion OMI. That would leave, it says in circulating supply, but it's actually the reserve wallet, which is out of circulation. That would leave 113 billion based on the 280-ish billion that are in the reserve right now. So that's very interesting. That would obviously result in them having to do quite substantial buybacks. For those of you that may not know what buybacks are, that is when OMI takes a percentage of their primary revenue in their marketplace and they use it to buy back OMI from exchanges, which in turn removes that OMI from the circulating supply, which should, in theory, increase the value of every other OMI token. What I wanted to reference on this spreadsheet, because I did reference it back in October, is that some of these items haven't been accounted for yet because they haven't been released. So we have no way of effectively modeling them, but land, which we know is coming in the VeVeverse, and we know we will be able to buy with either OMI or fiat, and non-specific IP. So what non-specific IP is it's anything that VeVe releases in the VeVeverse that does not belong to a specific brand holder. So whether it be Disney, Marvel, Givenchy, whoever it might be, if VeVe is releasing it and they own the license rights to it, then they can burn 100% of the value of the OMI that was used to purchase it directly, because they don't have to pay licensors. They own it. It's their own expense. So we modeled this back in October. I estimated $500 for a plot of land. It could be less, it could be more, but I think that this is fairly conservative. The quantity was 100,000. The reason that I came up with that is because Decentraland had about 90,000 and their project was significantly smaller than what VeVe is. I think 100,000 is actually less than the amount of lands that will be released, but I went with 100,000, and you can see here that that would add an additional 50 million in burns. Non-specific IP, which is also a very interesting one, even if, and when I say non-specific IP, like I said, shelving units, light bulbs, flooring tiles, ceilings, things that they can create themselves that they don't have to get licensed through anyone else. Let's say the average person spends $20 a month on it and 5 million items are purchased. It doesn't have to be by 5 million people. If you buy 10 things, then you spend $200, but we'll say 5 million quantity. That could burn $100 million worth of OMI. So we see these two things here as well account for an extra 15% OMI burn. So this would actually bring the revenue up to about 1.15 billion. And even if the price of OMI fluctuated, it would still burn a significant amount of OMI. And as I wrap up this video, I do want to reference that one more time because I think it's important. Because for the people that said, hey, you didn't account for the price of OMI fluctuating, understand that originally when I was doing it, it was 365 drops a year. 365 drops a year at 0.006 of a cent is the exact same thing as 365 drops times 3, so we'll call it 1150, at 1.8 cents. Increasing the drop size by a 3x and then increasing the OMI price by a 3x results in the exact same OMI burn. It doesn't matter. It's all relative. So as an example, we made, or I should say VeVe made, $100 million in revenue. So let's say at the average price of OMI, they made $100 million, and then OMI goes up 10x. People have said that the model's invalidated because we won't burn that much OMI, because it's not possible with those numbers. But remember that that will also go up 10x. So if the OMI price goes up 10x and the revenue goes up 10x, they completely offset each other, and we still get the same amount of burn that we would have gotten this year, which I think I modeled based on 365 drops and 400 million in revenue, and it would still burn a significant amount of OMI. So it's very interesting. It's very exciting once you start to actually run the numbers and see how all of this is coming together. I did want to get this video out for you guys today. Of course, if you have any questions, let me know in the comment section down below. If there's anything you agree or disagree with, are you excited about the revenue projections? Do you think that they're low? Do you think that they're high? Let's create a conversation and get some excitement going on in the community about this. I think it's going to be an absolutely fantastic year, and I'm glad that we're starting it off on this foot. Once again, thank you all for the support. If you're not, please make sure to subscribe, turn on the post notifications so that you are notified anytime that I do release a video. Thank you once again. I love you. Peace.